In my previous life, the antique bracelet my mother left me was stolen by my stepsister, my scumbag father, to squeeze every last bit of value out of me, handed me over to a wealthy rapist for a blind date, and in the second year of the apocalypse, I died miserably in a blizzard. Only after death did I realize that the antique bracelet stolen by my stepsister contained a massive space inside. After driving me out, my scumbag father moved into the luxurious penthouse in the city center that my mother had left for me, living it up with his mistress and stepsister during the apocalypse, watching as the wealthy rapist threw me into the blizzard to die a tragic death. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the pre-apocalyptic days when my scumbag father forced me into blind dates, so I immediately beat the rapist to a pulp. I seized the antique bracelet back before anyone else could. I reclaimed the downtown property my mother left for me, while my scumbag father, his mistress, and their illegitimate daughter struggled to survive. I was enjoying hot pot in my top-floor safe room. Just moments ago, I was still in the freezing blizzard, covered in gruesome wounds, frozen to death in the snowstorm from excessive blood loss. The next instant, my soul drifted through the white expanse of the sky, eventually floating into the penthouse safe room at the city center. This apartment was bought for me by my mother before she passed away, yet now, it's been taken over by my scumbag father, his mistress, and their illegitimate daughter. On their massive TV screen, they're live-streaming the footage of me dying in the blizzard. That little bitch Jiang Ran is finally dead. Honey, you can go demand a huge amount of supplies from that rapist rich second generation now. After all, he killed your daughter, Mom, Dad. Come quickly and eat the steak. There's so much in the space that it's overflowing. After the apocalypse, I was tortured and killed by that rapist, while my scumbag father and his mistress, who stole all my resources, were living it up in the penthouse safe room. Watching them mock and laugh over my lifeless body, I was consumed by overwhelming hatred and charged straight at them. Yet it was all in vain. I could only helplessly pass through their bodies before being pushed back to where I stood by an invisible force. The violent impact made me clearly see the familiar antique bracelet on the wrist of my scumbag father's illegitimate daughter. It was the most precious item from the jewelry box my mother left me after her death, yet now it adorned Jiang Wan's wrist. Through her wrist, I saw the enormous hidden space behind her. If it weren't for this bracelet her mother left behind, which Dad hid in the villa, we might not be living such a good life now. What does it matter if this house is under her name? Who cares about the law after the apocalypse? Besides, that bitch doesn't even know we moved in long ago. Jiang Ran is just a fool. She never knew we took her things, and in the end, she died such a miserable death. I listened to the truth from their mouths, and all that remained in my heart was endless despair. If there is an afterlife, I will make sure they die without a place to be buried. I roared and lunged at the bracelet on Jiang Wan's wrist, until a single tear of blood fell from my eyes onto that bracelet. A blinding flash of light erupted, and I was sucked into another space by that bracelet. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the time before the apocalypse. In a daze, I heard a familiar voice. My parents really like you. Once we're married, you won't have to work. Our family will give you a large sum of money every month. Just focus on staying home and having children. If you're with me, you'll live a good life from now on. But I have many women outside, so it's best if you don't interfere. After all, giving you the position of the official wife is already a charity. At the Western restaurant, the man sitting across from me was leering at my neckline with a lascivious gaze, his words vulgar and foul. Looking at Zhang Tao's greasy face, a wave of nausea rose in my throat. In my previous life, I was tricked by my scumbag father into this blind date. I never had any interest in Zhang Tao, that foul legal scumbag, but after the apocalypse arrived, my father teamed up with his mistress to break my legs and directly delivered me to the nouveau riche Zhang family, and from then on, I endured 2 years of living hell. Zhang Tao, why aren't you dead yet, you scourge? I stared at him coldly, my tone unsparing. At least for now, the fat-faced Zhang Tao was no match for me, a boxing champion. The greasy, sinister smile on Zhang Tao's face instantly twisted, his bloated face contorted with rage as he glared at me. You bitch, Jiang Ran. Are you looking for death? He raised his hand, about to hit me, with a cold expression. I immediately bent his fingers backward with force. Ah! Zhang Tao grabbed the porcelain plate with the steak, ready to smash it into my face. 2 years into the apocalypse, though my legs were broken, the strength and reflexes in my hands had long been honed from enduring his abuse. I swung a fist, deflecting the porcelain plate he hurled at me, then kicked him to the ground. Bang! Zhang Tao turned pale with pain, clutching his phone as he scrambled to flee. His face darkened as he spat out a threat. Jiang Ran, you just wait, if I don't destroy your Jiang family. My surname isn't Jiang. My gaze froze on the burning candlestick. In my past life, that beast Zhang Tao would drip the red-hot wax from the candlestick onto my arm every time he sought to satisfy his perverse desires. Did I say you could leave? I grabbed that candlestick and smashed it directly onto him. Aw, I was wrong, Jiang Ran. You're insane. I was wrong. Please, help me. I swung my fist hard and punched him in the face. Zhang Tao, if you dare call the police, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Zhang Tao's wails drew quite a crowd of onlookers. Before the waiter could arrive with the hotel security, I hurriedly left. There are only 3 days left before the apocalypse arrives. My most urgent task now is to retrieve the bracelet that was stolen from me in my previous life and that top-floor safe house in the city center. Suddenly returning to this real, orderly world before the apocalypse, I even felt a strange sense of unfamiliarity. It feels like an unreal dream. The chaotic and evil society after the apocalypse had long turned me into a cold and numb person. I returned to my scumbag father's villa in City B and smoothly unlocked the front door with my fingerprint. At this time, only Jiang Wan was in the Jiang family's villa. Seeing me suddenly appear, her eyes were filled with confusion and resentment. Sister, didn't Dad say you were on a blind date today with the eldest son of the wealthy Zhang family? I walked straight past her and headed to Jiang Weijiao's master bedroom on the 2nd floor. Jiang Wan followed behind me, her tone dripping with schadenfreude. Sister, I heard from Dad that Zhang Tao's family owns many properties. If you marry into their family, you'll live a life of luxury forever. I let out a cold snort and turned to glare at her. If you like it so much, why don't you marry him instead? Jiang Wan's hypocritical expression instantly changed as she frowned and retorted, how can that be? That's the marriage partner Dad picked for you. You and Zhang Tao are the perfect match. I lowered my head and watched her standing at the corner of the stairs. The diamond necklace around her neck made my eyes sting with pain. That necklace was the 18th birthday gift my mother bought for me at an auction in Europe before she passed away. Jiang Wan, come up here. I calmly waved my hand, watching as she walked toward me. Slap. Before she could react, I slapped her across the face without hesitation. Jiang Wan froze in place, her face instantly flushing red. Jiang Ran, you bitch, how dare you hit me, she shrieked in rage, but I firmly gripped her flailing hands and yanked the diamond necklace off her neck. Do you have a death wish? How dare you snatch my necklace? She struggled against my hand that was pinning hers down, lunging forward to snatch the necklace back from my grip. Whose necklace is this really? Think carefully before you answer. Slap. As she charged at me again, I swiftly delivered another harsh slap across the other side of her face. Instantly, Jiang Wan's already puffy square face swelled up high and red. It looked just like an ugly pig's head. At this sight, she and Zhang Tao were truly a perfect match. She wanted to howl again, but I directly pulled out Jiang Weijiao's fishing line and tied her up in place. Shut up. My fierce glare sent Jiang Wan trembling all over. You're not that bitch Jiang Ran. You must be insane. Tied to the staircase on the 2nd floor, she screamed hysterically. I couldn't be bothered to deal with her anymore and went straight into Jiang Weijiao's bedroom, finding the safe he had hidden in the secret compartment. The safe's combination was something my wicked stepmother from my previous life had revealed herself, after she seized the priceless jewelry my mother left me. Luckily, Weijiao set the password to my birthday. Otherwise I would never have been able to transfer so many jewels so smoothly. The person-sized safe was opened without a hitch. What was inside left me utterly stunned. Dozens of property deeds from City B, and every single one is under my name. I looked at the property addresses listed. They were all prime downtown properties my mother had purchased when she was alive. There were also some diamond necklaces and jade jewelry set aside separately, each of exceptional quality. Items that could fetch vast amounts of supplies in the post-apocalyptic world later on. These pieces of jewelry were all heirlooms passed down from my mother's side of the family. I opened the black suitcase I had brought and unceremoniously dumped everything from the safe into it. Among the pile of jewelry, I spotted the bracelet that had been on Jiang Wan's wrist in my previous life. Its glow was distinctly different, a soft, radiant green light tinged with warmth. Jiang Ran, what are you doing? Jiang Wan finally broke free with the help of the nanny downstairs, and the moment she rushed in and saw what I was holding, she started screaming. I didn't even bother to lift my head, my hands continuously packing the contents of the safe into a specially designed black suitcase, when I spotted the property deed for the villa under my scumbag father Jiang Weijiao's name. My gaze paused. Then I took it without hesitation. This villa was jointly registered under my name and Jiang Weijiao's. Back when Jiang Weijiao first made his fortune by relying on my mother's family, this was the first villa he bought. At the time, my mother had insisted on adding my name to the deed. There are only 3 days left until the apocalypse arrives. If I don't make them homeless within these 3 days, my surname isn't Jiang. Jiang Wan stared intently at the bracelet I had just put on my wrist. Furious, she rushed forward, grabbing my wrist and trying to make me take it off. As if by some unseen force, she seemed to know that bracelet was very important to her. Her gaze at me was filled with panic and unease. Jiang Ran, you're stealing. If you don't stop now, I'm calling the police. I carried out the last few dozen gold bars from the safe and turned to look at her distorted expression. Everything I took belongs to me. Calling the police won't help you. Jiang Wan's face changed color as she looked at me in disbelief. How did you know? She knew everything I said was true. Everything in this safe was under my name. In my previous life, had I not lingered as a ghost in their safe house after my tragic death, I would never have discovered these secrets, because that scumbag father of mine, after my mother's accidental car accident, always claimed I owned nothing, even the jewelry I lost, he said was buried with my mother during her funeral. Looking back now, Jiang Weijiao was nothing but a complete and utter beast. Dragging a suitcase packed to the brim, I left under the stunned gazes of the 2 maids downstairs. When I left, I drove off directly in Jiang Weijiao's sports car worth tens of millions. Pausing for a moment, my eyes lingered on the dozen or so top-tier luxury cars remaining in the garage. In a couple of days, after mortgaging this villa of my scumbag father to the loan sharks, I must find time to come back and take everything. That same day, I dragged my suitcase and moved into the top-floor luxury apartment in the city center with the highest security. Looking at the top-tier anti-theft door gifted by the developer, I didn't hesitate for a second. I went to the city's largest security and anti-theft door market and found a newly developed door with the highest thickness and defensive capabilities. At the same time, I contacted the largest real estate agency in City B and sold off over a dozen properties and commercial storefronts under my name at 20% below market price. Miss Jiang, the total transaction price for these properties is 600 million, and the funds have already been transferred to your account. Looking at the countless digits in my bank account, the unease in my heart finally eased a little. In the apocalypse, the most crucial thing is supplies, endless supplies. I watched the construction team install the brand new security door and was just about to leave the villa for the largest vegetable wholesale market in the neighboring city when I encountered a few uninvited guests. Jiang Weijiao arrived with Lu Jingman and Jiang Wan in tow. In the afternoon, when he returned to the villa and saw the emptied safe, he nearly had a heart attack on the spot. If it weren't for Jiang Wan standing by with an oxygen tank, the scumbag father might have kicked the bucket right then and there. Now when he sees me, the look in his eyes is practically trying to tear me apart. Well, it makes sense. A top-tier social climber who spent his whole life scheming, only to see what little wealth he had vanish overnight. Of course he'd go crazy. Jiang Ran, are you trying to get yourself killed? With several bodyguards in tow, he charged at me menacingly. You dare steal from the family? I should have strangled you the moment you were born, you wretched thing. Jiang Wan, standing behind him, began to sob with tears streaming down her face. Sister, you took everything from the house. That was Dad's lifelong savings, and you stole it all. You nearly caused Dad to collapse today. Her face, still swollen from the beating I gave her this afternoon, looked both pitiful and ridiculous. I glared coldly at Jiang Wan and raised my fist. Jiang Wan, didn't this afternoon teach you to keep your mouth shut? I only took what belongs to me. How can that be called stealing? Excellent. Since they've come knocking, I won't let these beasts off today. Lu Jingman's voice feigned gentleness, but the greed on her face was unmistakable. Ran, I know you dislike me, but after all, he is your biological father. What you've done, it's truly heartbreaking for him. Besides, Wan is innocent. Not only did you steal from the house, but you also beat your sister like this. It's only because we still consider you family that we haven't called the police yet. You're just a girl. Yet you've stolen so much from the family. You must have been tricked by some scoundrel outside. Your father and I aren't angry with you. Just come home with us quietly. You wouldn't want your dad to call the police and have you thrown in jail, would you? Lu Jingmon's voice was soft yet chilling, her gaze at me as cold as bone, like a venomous snake coiling tightly around its prey. They appeared right during the evening rush hour in the neighborhood. And the residents who heard the commotion all glared at me with indignation. My goodness, this girl looks decent. But not only did she steal from her own family, she nearly drove her own father to his grave. What a misfortune to raise such a daughter. Yeah, to think we have such thieves in our neighborhood. It really drags down the whole place. Her sister is so pitiful too, beaten up like that. That girl really went all out with the violence. If it were me, I'd have called the police for sure. A daughter like that is just a menace to society. That father is still too kind. Lu Jingman, as always, knows how to stir up public opinion. Clearly, it's her and that scumbag father who seized assets that rightfully belong to me. Yet now I'm the shameless thief. The scumbag father came at me with several bodyguards in tow. Jiang Ran, if you don't hand over those property deeds today, I swear I'll have you sent to the police station. He grabbed my wrist immediately, trying to slap me. I turned my face to dodge, then kicked away a bodyguard who was trying to restrain me from behind. Bang! The bodyguard was knocked down by my kick, looking at me in disbelief. Even I didn't expect that after returning to this life, my strength would be so great. Jiang Weizhao, all those property deeds bear my name. Stop spewing nonsense here. And the jewelry in your safe. They were all left to me by my mother before she died. What right do you have to demand them from me? Lu Jingmon's face darkened, unable to hold back any longer. Jiang Ran, what you took was all saved up by me and your father over the years. When did your mother ever give you anything? She's been dead for years. If she really left something for you, it would have been given to you long ago. How could it still be in our house? Jiang Ran, you ungrateful wretch. If you don't hand over those things today, I swear I'll beat you to death. Jiang Weizhao, furious and red-eyed, stubbornly raised his hand to slap me again. I dodged to the side and retaliated by slapping Lu Jingman instead. Slap. Lu Jingman was completely stunned after I slapped her. When she finally reacted, clutching her swollen red face, she screamed at me. Ah, Weizhao, your daughter is out of control. Now she even dares to hit her elders. Can't you learn to shut up? I grabbed her hair and slapped her again with the back of my hand. You're just a homewrecker who climbed your way up. What gives you the right to call yourself my elder? Now Lu Jingman is completely subdued. This chaotic scene reminds me of my previous life. At the beginning of the apocalypse, Jiang Weizhao's company went bankrupt overnight. Back then, I also ruined the arranged marriage with Zhang Tao. He barged into my rented apartment downtown with several bodyguards and directly had my legs broken. Then he couldn't wait to deliver me to the wealthy Zhang family. That very day, he exchanged me for the first massive batch of post-apocalyptic supplies. With the money Zhang Tao gave him, he bought up large quantities of grain and vegetables in the neighboring city. At that time, Lu Jingman looked down at me from her high horse as I lay on the ground with broken legs, wailing helplessly. Jiang Ran, you should be grateful. Your father is sending you off to a better life. The Zhang family is so wealthy, and with the world in chaos now, you might even marry into fortune. She and Jiang Wan stepped on my broken legs, their faces filled with triumphant vengeance. Reborn in this life, as I once again faced the ugly expressions of these people, an intense killing intent surged within me. I forcefully suppressed my out-of-control emotions, repeatedly reminding myself, the apocalypse hasn't arrived yet. Killing is illegal now. Of the bodyguards Jiang Weizhao had brought, only 3 remained. At his command, catch this troublemaker. Whoever catches her first gets 10,000 yuan. Several people instantly rushed toward me. The surrounding crowd exclaimed, a heartless daughter like her deserves to be taught a lesson. That's right, we support you in disciplining your child. If we really can't get it back, we'll help you call the police. Several bodyguards charged straight at me. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the green belt near the residential area and hurled it at them. Bang! My strength was astonishingly great now. With one swing, the first bodyguard who came at me instantly crumpled to the ground, howling in pain. Help! Save me! It hurts so much. The remaining two men looked at me with eyes full of fear, rooted to the spot and not daring to move. Jiang Weizhao, furious and red-faced, roared at them, "Get her, if we don't break this wretch's legs today." I won't let her off. Without hesitation, I immediately stepped forward and kicked each of the two bodyguards. "Get lost if you don't want to die." I stomped down, and both of them stared at me in horror. "Impossible, how could you have such strength?" Even Jiang Weizhao noticed something was off this time. His face instantly turned deathly pale. "You monster, just like your long-dead uncle, you're both freaks, neither of you is human." My gaze paused. It was the first time I'd heard him mention my mother's family. Could my uncle also possess such immense strength? Lu Jingman and Jiang Wan stared at me, their eyes filled with terror, clinging to each other and trembling, not daring to utter another word to me. Dragging the fire extinguisher in my hand, I walked straight toward Jiang Weizhao. His hands trembled uncontrollably with fear. His voice frantic, "I'm calling the police." Jiang ran, "You monster, I'll have you locked up. Go ahead, let's see if the police arrest you, the thief who stole dozens of my diamond and jewelry pieces. Or me." I leaned close to his ear, my tone venomous. "Jiang Weizhao, don't forget, all the jewelry my mother left me before she died is worth hundreds of millions combined, and every piece was notarized and recorded, under my name. You tell me. If the police find out it was you who smuggled and sold it, who do you think will go to jail first? You or me?" I clearly saw his pupils tremble, his lips tightly clenched, not daring to even breathe. "You, how did you know?" I gave him a cold stare, turned around, and left with these words, "Take your people and get out of here, or don't blame me for being rude." Jiang Weizhao trembled in fear, no longer daring to demand the things I took away today. "Let's go, we're going home." He turned and left, leaving Lu Jingman and Jiang Wan staring at me with unwillingness. "Weizhao, how could you? Just like that, you're giving all these things to this little wench?" "Dad," Jiang Ran took my favorite emerald bracelet. "Didn't you promise you'd get it back for me?" The scumbag father was furious. "I told you to leave. Can't you understand human language?" Jiang Weizhao's angry rebuke instantly silenced Lu Jingman and her daughter, who had been trying to continue the argument. The few aunties who had just been standing in the crowd defending Lu Jingman were so frightened after seeing me knock down several burly men with my bare hands that they covered their mouths and left. They could also see that I was only taking what was rightfully mine under my own name, while Jiang Weizhao and Lu Jingman, his stepmother, were shamelessly trying to steal it outright. By the time the property manager arrived with the neighborhood security team, Jiang Weizhao and his group had already slunk away in disgrace. I registered the faces of several people, and in the following days, they appeared directly in this neighborhood again. There are still 3 days left. After the apocalypse arrives, the property management will have long become a mere formality. As long as I can keep them out of my sight for these few days, that's enough. 3 days later, my top-tier security door will naturally keep these people out. That night, wearing the antique bracelet, I drove overnight to the vegetable market in the neighboring city. Besides this place, I also went to the largest slaughterhouse in the suburbs of City B, spent 20 million to purchase the first batch of supplies. Due to not having made reservations in advance, I was only able to procure a small amount of meat on the first day. Early the next morning, I went directly to the largest warehouse supermarket in City B and bought millions worth of available stock of meat and seafood. After all the purchased supplies were delivered to the only factory warehouse under my name that hadn't been sold, I opened the antique space and gathered all the supplies inside. This bracelet was soaked with my blood the moment I brought it back, and by the afternoon of the first day, the space was activated. After completing the first round of supply purchases, I took the property deed of the villa where Jiang Weizhao and Lu Jingman currently live to the largest loan sharking operation, securing a mortgage loan at the low price of 5 million. A villa originally worth 30 million suddenly mortgaged for just 5 million. Those in the loan sharking business understood the disputes behind such a deal. I only made one demand: get all the squatters out of the villa. That afternoon, My phone was suddenly flooded with calls from Jiang Weizhao and Lu Jingman. Standing in the nation's largest seafood market, I calmly blocked their numbers and turned off my phone. And this is just the beginning. In my past life, not only did you kick me out of the house before the apocalypse, but you also threw me back into the hell of the Zhang family when I begged for help multiple times. Can't handle it now. As for that bastard Zhang Tao, I certainly won't let him off. After I beat him to a pulp during our blind date at the Western restaurant, he deliberately sought revenge by hiring several groups of thugs to ambush me outside my neighborhood. I struck a deal with a sales manager at the seafood market for 200 million yuan worth of premium seafood, demanding it be airlifted to the country overnight. He turned around and headed back to the residential area with the newly purchased chainsaw. There was only one day left before the apocalypse. As long as Zhang Tao shows up tomorrow night, I'll make sure he leaves with a broken leg. By then, a massive typhoon capable of overturning the entire city would strike, leaving countless people homeless. With social order already collapsing, no one would care about a rich second-generation heir with a sawn-off leg. On the third and final day, the 3 batches of supplies I had purchased were all neatly transported to the factory warehouse. Seeing the remaining 200 million in my card, I took the money directly to the largest jewelry auction house. Over these 2 days, thousands of tons of supplies had poured into the space, and I was initially quite worried about the limited usable area inside, but after Jiang Weizhao and his people came to cause trouble that day, I decided to play it safe and placed all the jewelry I had taken from the safe into the space. Billions worth of top-tier jewelry vanished into thin air the moment they entered the space. But what followed was an explosive expansion of the spatial area. In my previous life, the space behind Jiangwan was only the size of a 2-story villa, yet now, nourished by all the jewelry, the space in my hands has grown to the size of 10 football fields. That's why, at this auction, my sole target is top-quality jade and jewelry. As soon as I entered the auction hall, I spotted Jiang Weizhao standing beside Zhang Tao with an ingratiating smile, and behind Zhang Tao stood Jiangwan. Covered in bruises, it seems that even after being driven out of the house by me in this lifetime, Jiang Weizhao still managed to latch onto the nouveau riche Zhang family. But this time, the sacrifice he offered was his beloved illegitimate daughter, whom he had doted on for over a decade. I let out a cold laugh and walked straight past them. Jiang ran. Jiangwan stopped me first. Her eyes were filled with hatred as she glared at me fiercely. Jiang Weizhao snapped out of it and rushed toward me. Jiang ran, you've grown bold, haven't you? How dare you mortgage my house to loan sharks? He rushed over, his eyes fierce and menacing as they locked onto me. Seeing the dark circles under his eyes from the exhaustion of the past 2 days, I felt a surge of satisfaction. What's the matter? Didn't you find someone to take the fall for you? I stepped past him, eager to check out today's auction items first. Jiang Weizhao, however, wasn't planning to let me off. Grabbing my clothes as if ready to throw a punch, I turned around, looking at him calmly. Have you forgotten? I'm not exactly the type who respects the elderly and cherishes the young. I waved my fist at him as a warning. He instinctively let go of my sleeve, a flicker of fear flashing in his eyes. I don't care, you must get the villa back for me today. On what grounds? Jiang Weizhao was left speechless by my counter-question. Because I'm your biological father. If you don't return the house to me today, believe me, you won't be able to walk out that door. The auction was about to begin. As I watched that top-grade jade pendant being presented on the display stand, my eyes darkened. The moment that jade pendant appeared, the jade bracelet in my hand began to tremble. I could clearly feel the effect it was having on the bracelet. The starting bid is 80 million. I narrowed my eyes and said in a deep voice, Jiang Weizhao, if you want your villa back, fine, hand over everything you've swindled from me over the years, every last cent of the inheritance my mother left me. I knew he couldn't produce it. In my previous life, before the apocalypse, he had already racked up hundreds of millions in gambling debts at overseas casinos. All the assets he smuggled out and sold ended up in foreign casinos. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been left homeless after their villa was confiscated. As for the cars in the garage, I had already taken them into my space that very night after the villa was sealed off. Jiang Weizhao still thinks they were repossessed by the mafia. No sooner had I finished speaking than he began to roar impatiently. In your dreams, those things are all mine. if you don't hand them over today, I'll marry you off to Zhang Tao. Zhang Tao, who had been standing by the side, suddenly spoke up, "Father-in-law, I only fancy beauties with broken legs. A thorny rose like Jiang Ranran isn't to my liking." He stood with an air of arrogance, his eyes wandering over my evening gown. "Broken leg? Perfect. Coincidentally, I also like crippled beasts. If you've got the guts, come at me." Our argument caught the attention of the auction organizers. Before Jiang Weizhao could go berserk again, several special security personnel appeared behind him and took control of the situation. He didn't dare to speak again, after all. He was only able to enter this auction today by leveraging Zhang Tao's family connections. I turned and walked straight toward the auction platform. The auction began, and the bidding for the first round of jade pendants had already reached 150 million. I suppressed the burning sensation at my wrist and calmly bid 180 million. Zhang Tao suddenly went wild like a rabid dog, biting at my bid and raising it. I offered 200 million, and he immediately countered with 250 million. Even in the apocalypse of the previous life, the Zhang family still held assets worth billions. Since we're playing, let's go big. After all, once tomorrow passes and the apocalypse arrives, I'll have plenty of chances to reclaim this jade pendant. Given a second life, what he owes me from the past should be repaid with interest. I symbolically raised the bid to 1 billion. Turning to Zhang Tao behind him, he silently taunted, "Coward, dare to follow." Furious, he turned and slapped Jiang Wan beside him. "Bitch, you and your sister are both bitches." Beneath Jiang Wan's exposed dress were terrifying scars, her eyes now red and glaring at me fiercely. He raised his hand and directly upped the bid to 2 billion. My goal is achieved. The bidding stopped, and I coldly watched as Zhang Tao, his face livid, was taken away by the auction house to swipe his card like a fool. 2 billion, for the current Zhang family. This is no small sum. At least after the apocalypse, the funds they had for hoarding supplies were cut by more than half. The jewelry exhibits auctioned afterward were all mediocre, so I got up and left the venue directly. Just as I got into the car, Jiang Weizhao rushed over with a few of Zhang Tao's thugs in tow. "Jiang Ranran, I told you, if you don't hand over that house today, don't even think about leaving this time." He's learned his lesson. The dozen or so bodyguards he brought all have sharp weapons tucked at their waists. They're even holding a few thick iron rods in their hands. These people started smashing my car windows the moment they arrived. Bang, bang, more than a dozen people smashed violently, and the sports car's windows shattered instantly, scattering glass everywhere. "Get out if you don't want to die. Today, not only will you return the house, but you'll also vomit up everything you stole from me." Jiang Weizhao is now a dog relying on its master's power. Those thugs were clearly specially trained. Several of them were actually Zhang Tao's most capable henchmen in my previous life. My expression turned cold. I hadn't expected Zhang Tao to be this brazen even before the apocalypse. The moment Jiang Weizhao charged forward, I floored the accelerator. Through the shattered rearview mirror, I clearly saw him lying on the ground, howling in pain as he clutched his leg. If we're going to go crazy, then none of us will live. I still have over 20 heavy-duty cutting machines in my space right now. He still thinks of me as the Jiang Ranran from the previous life, who let him do whatever he wanted. Having already struggled to survive in the apocalypse for 2 years, I long ago lost any semblance of a conscience. The fact that I endured Zhang Tao's sadistic torment for 2 years proves I was never normal to begin with. In the apocalypse, I've witnessed too much devastation, kin turning on kin, and unspeakable atrocities that defy all morality. That night, I drove my battered sports car to the warehouse in the suburbs to collect the last batch of supplies that had arrived. The next day, the apocalypse arrived. At 12 in the morning, the sky remained ominously dark. A violent typhoon struck without warning. The entire world descended into hellish chaos overnight. People in the residential area downstairs were fleeing in panic, their wails rising and falling. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window I had reinforced with top-grade explosion-proof glass, I gazed at the gloomy sky with a deep sense of sorrow. In this life, the apocalypse has arrived once again, yet no one in the country realizes that this storm is merely the prelude to the end of the world. Zhang Tao appeared at this very moment, standing outside my security door with over 20 people. They immediately started smashing it violently. through the hidden surveillance camera outside the security door. I clearly heard him going berserk outside my room. Since they've delivered themselves to my doorstep, then be a good limbless lunatic, Jiang Ran. If you've got the guts, come out here. You injured so many of my brothers yesterday. Today you'll either die or be crippled. With a cold expression, I carried the heavy-duty cutting machine outside. The howling wind and incessant hail pounded against the window. The moment the roaring cutting machine appeared, the bodyguard standing in front of Zhang Tao instantly took a step back. What, you want me to come out and collect your corpse? Staring at his repulsive face, the long-suppressed hatred within me erupted completely at that moment. I charged straight at him with the high-speed cutting machine in hand, kicking down every bodyguard who tried to stop me since my rebirth. My strength has been increasing every day. If I wanted to, none of the 20-some people standing before me could get anywhere near me. By the time I reached Zhang Tao, whose face had turned deathly pale, not a single bodyguard behind him dared to step forward and intervene. I warned the men behind him in a low voice. I'll give you one chance. Choose now. Either run, or die by my hand later. I revved the cutter in my hand and strode straight toward them. The men standing behind him fled down the stairs from the rooftop in the next instant. Jiang Ran, you're a complete lunatic. Get lost. Zhang Tao turned around to run as well. I rushed forward, grabbed him, and kicked him. Didn't you call me out? Now that I'm out, you're unhappy. All the people Zhang Tao brought had fled. He knelt on the ground, pinned firmly under my leg, still trying to scream for mercy. Jiang Ran. I was wrong. You're my grandaunt. Spare me today, please. I'll give you that jade pendant from yesterday that you wanted. Okay. Terrified and at a loss, his hands trembled uncontrollably. The terrifying roar of the cutting machine bore straight toward his forehead. I raised an eyebrow and looked at him. Show me what you've got, and if I'm pleased, I might just spare your life. Zhang Tao struggled to pull out the jade pendant from his coat. Let me go. It was your father who sent me today. He said as long as I caught you, he wouldn't care if I played you to death. He even told me it'd be best if I killed you. He's the one who gave me your home address. I took the jade pendant and confirmed it was the same one from last night's auction. Zhang Tao watched as I took the jade pendant and grabbed my leg. Trying to stand up, I stomped down, clearly hearing the sound of his ankle shattering. Ah, you're a demon, Jiang Ran. You'll die a horrible death. The intense pain made him burst into tears instantly. How utterly annoying. I lifted the cutting machine and pressed it directly onto his leg. Enjoy it. This is what you owed me from your past life. The overwhelming pain caused Zhang Tao to pass out instantly. I stared at his legs, severed from his body, and the tormenting demon that had haunted my heart countless times finally dissipated. In my previous life, Zhang Tao, in pursuit of thrill, would saw off a piece of flesh from my severed leg with an electric saw every single day. Countless nightmares that woke me at midnight were all about his twisted, ferocious face. That day, I threw the unconscious Zhang Tao into the elevator. The bodyguards waiting downstairs rushed into the howling wind and hail, carrying the body. I stood on the rooftop, coldly watching the Jiang Weizhao family as they arrived. After seeing Zhang Tao's gruesome state, they dared not approach any further. From that day onward, 6 months of relentless hail and endless storms left the entire city be devoid of any signal. Call the police. With the arrival of the apocalypse, the darkest things hidden beneath the city surged forth overnight. Civilized society descended into chaos, and I was merely the most ordinary among countless survivors. In the second year of the apocalypse, the extreme cold and heavy snowfall instantly turned the entire city, soaked by rain for a year, into a foul stench. It was also at this time that I saw Jiang Weizhao and his group reappear downstairs in my building. They struggled to move through the heavy snow, their frail figures looking as if they might collapse at any moment. But in this life, it was me enjoying hotpot in a top-tier safe house. Karma always comes around. I never harm the innocent, but those who once destroyed me and made me suffer endlessly in hell deserve to die. In the 5th year of the apocalypse, I left the safe house on the top floor and, in the extreme heat, followed the last survivors to the official base. There, I saw my uncle who had passed away over a decade ago. It turned out that long before the apocalypse arrived, my uncle had been recruited by a special forces unit. His supernatural ability allowed him to save countless people in the apocalypse. I joined his rescue team without hesitation, although no one knows when this world will get better. There are always those who persist with all their might.